Yeah, Brian, you got a big night there. Looking forward to it. Here, the holiday weekend has arrived in South Florida. With it comes hot weather, loads of fun, and Friday Night Fights is riding that wave right to Pompano Beach. That's where our fight fans have found action inside the ropes, and we are inside the brand new Club Cinema in Pompano Beach. And with the big fight opportunities on the horizon, motivated junior welterweights are the focus. We will start off the night with a former world title challenger. He's making a strong comeback. 30-fight veteran Ben Tackie faces 25-year-old Edwin Algarin. It's an 8-round bout. Now there is 25-year-old Edwin Algarin. He's 5'8", 141 pounds. He lives and trains in West Palm Beach, but he learned how to box through Johnny Callis's inner city Hartford program in Connecticut. He also spent valuable time in Puerto Rico and tightened up his skills there. Let's take a look at his last 5. He went 3-1-1 against this really undistinguished group here. 5 fighters. They only had 22 fights, 9 wins among them. This is a big step up facing Tackie for Algarin. And after a 1-year layoff, tune-up fight December, Ben Wonder Tackie is back. He's 31 years old, originally from Ghana. He's been fighting in the U.S. since '97. He's 25-5 with 16 knockouts. And when you look at his last 5, you'll see that 2 of his knockouts bookend his 3 big fight losses. After knocking out Teddy Reed in 2002, he lost to Kostya Tszyu, Sharmba Mitchell, and Ricky Hatton. And if you're going to have 3 losses in a row, you may as well lose to the best, and that's what Ben Tackie did. He's been working with former world champion and current Shane Mosley trainer John David Jackson. Jackson's been working on making significant changes to Tackie's approach.
Working with Ben has been a real pleasure. I hope to accomplish with Ben, making him a complete fighter. You know, in the past, he's a warrior, but he doesn't have to go to war all the time. I told him, you know, if you box and you set your fighters up, you can feint them, jab them, work your way in. Once you get inside, then go to the body. You can break them down a lot easier than just going to war. Every fight's a battle. You know, I'd rather come out unscathed than have to go to war to prove that he's a warrior.
I want you to protect yourself. Most of all, I want you to obey my instructions, all right? This is good here. This is good here. Any questions? Any questions? Listen, I'm talking to you. Any questions? Any questions here? Touch him up. Touch him up. Don't start. It's going to be a short night if you keep it up.
Jorge Alonso may have a long evening ahead of him based on that introduction. The referee here, ring experience. Tackie has fought 18 more fights, 177 more pro rounds. Algarin does have a solid amateur foundation to beat Rock Allen in pre-Olympic competition. And here is Ben Tackie, 1 year off after that loss to Ricky Hatton. That was in December 2003. Said he needed that year off, Teddy, because he needed to correct all his mistakes.
And he needed a rest from all the tough fights. Tackie has lost 3 of his last 4, but as you've talked about, 12-round decisions, and 2 of them against world champions. That can kind of get long on the odometer, so to speak, when you're fighting tough fights all the time. That's why his new trainer, Ben Tackie's new trainer, John David Jackson, the former junior middleweight champion of the world, can be very important, maybe important enough to even extend his career, because Tackie has always been a guy who's taken a lot of punishment, just walked in. And you couldn't get more of an opposite than John David Jackson, a slickster, a southpaw.
Of course, we were in Caesar's Palace and saw the work that he was able to do with Shane Mosley as Shane makes his return to 147 pounds, and Jackson was able to lead him to a win against David Estrada.
Jackson, being the former southpaw, perhaps can speak the right language to Tackie against Algarin tonight, who of course you can see is a southpaw.
Not many exchanges early on. You talked about, Teddy, the change that they want to make. One of the things that Jackson pointed out with Ben Tackie is that he's the type of guy that could always take a punch, and in doing so, he sat back, took a lot, and just relied on his strength and power.
Well, talking about strengths and powers, the most important thing is to know your strengths, your powers, and also the same for your opponent. And right now, what Tackie needs to notice quickly, and I'm sure he'll get help in the corner from John David Jackson, a former champion, has to start going to the body, has to notice that Algarin's whole fight plan is to use his legs right now and get around the ring. No better way to take those legs away than to start right now banging downstairs. Put some money in the bank and build interest as the rounds go on. Huge step up for Algarin.
That's an understatement, right? This is a
No,
guy
it really is.
I mean, this is a young man who's just 9-2-1. Started his pro career in 2001. Edwin said that he's inspired by the accomplishments of his cousin, Orlando Fernandez, who had the WBO's 122-pound title. Back in 1990, Fernandez wrapped up his career by taking on Marco Antonio Barrera and Kevin Kelly for belts, losing efforts in both.
You can see the stage fright written all over the face of Algarin. Even the way he's throwing his punches. He's throwing don't hit me punches, not real punches to slow down. A guy as experienced and as strong as a Tackie. He's going to have to make an adjustment in the corner.
Coming to the end of round number 1. They're scheduled for 8. ESPN 2 Friday Night Fights presented by AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. Joe Tessitore and Teddy Atlas with you from Club Cinema in Pompano Beach. Kendall Holt, Jaime Rangel in our main event tonight. We've been monitoring Kendall Holt for a few years. He's always very, very exciting, and that's one of the things he's been concentrating on, to be a showstopper, highlight kind of guy. Now he just wants to concentrate on being ranked and becoming a title contender. What does he have to do to do that?
Probably use the right hand, box a little bit, and talking about being exciting, he's got a guy in front of him, and Rangel, who's an exciting guy. He only knows one way: come forward from that southpaw position and press his man. That man who's relaxing right there, Kendall Holt, he has to make sure that he boxes, creates openings, and uses that right hand against that fella, Jaime Rangel, who's a southpaw, and the right hand can be kryptonite against the southpaw, and Kendall Holt has a good right hand. He has confidence in it. And we'll get a chance to take a peek at how he uses it tonight. Should be a good fight, Joe, because you have talent in there, and in Rangel, you have a guy who makes good fights.
So that's coming up later in our main event. Jaime Rangel and the always exciting Kendall Holt. They will be in a 12-round main event. Big night on Friday Night Fights. Brian Kenny in studio with the contender champ, Sergio Mora. I loved his quote earlier. Brian said money is good. He said no, money is great. Yeah, when you have $1 million this week, I'd say so. Sergio Mora in studio, Brian Kenny tonight. Round number 2, Edwin Algarin wearing the animal print, taking on the former world title challenger Ben Tackie in the silver with black trim.
Right now, the body language of Algarin is not so much to hit Tackie. It's more like not to get hit, hoping he's not going to hit him. Look at the punches that Algarin is throwing. He's not even throwing them to land. He's throwing them almost to hope that Tackie does not throw back and does not walk forward.
Counter to everything that was said leading up to this fight, when Algarin tried to convince everybody that he would not run and he would not be in survival mode in his big step up against Ben Tackie, that he was there to fight. But we haven't seen it so far.
The punches that Algarin is throwing at Tackie doesn't even have to make the miss. They're coming short because Algarin is not committing. He's afraid to commit to make sure that he makes contact. Tackie doesn't even have to do what a fighter normally does, and that's avoid the punch so far. Gonna have to be a huge change in the temperament, in the mindset of Algarin if he's going to stay in this fight as Tackie gets more and more aggressive, usually as the fights go on.
Final minute now of this second round. We apologize for the difficulties with our clock.
You know, it almost looks like Tackie understands that he's got a guy that he can do what he wants in front of. And it's almost as though he has an attitude like he's in a gym sparring. Going easy in spots, then looking to throw something hard once in a while, like he's got all the time in the world to control this man. There's been nothing in the record of Algarin to prepare him for this. He's never been past 6 rounds. Tackie's been 10 rounds or better 12 times and fought for a world title.
Of course, Ben Tackie most recently taking on Costa Zoo, Charmaine Mitchell, and Ricky Hack. Took a year off, came back in December, and now finds himself back on TV and in control as we come to the end of round number 2. Algarin and Tackie are scheduled for 8.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
If you're driving around with worn-out brake pads on your car, that's dangerous. Get to AutoZone for a new set of brakes today. Get in the zone.
AutoZone.
That's not tough enough to stop athlete's foot. Hit that with boom. Tough actin Tinactin. Tinactin's the only one proven to prevent athlete's foot. Lamisil can't say that. Get boom. Tough actin Tinactin.
Hey, how's it going? Nice shirt. Listen, the bean dip's starting to get a little funky.
What?
Speaking of outdated, are you still watching digital cable?
How'd you get in here?
DirecTV has 100% digital quality on every channel. Digital cable calls itself digital, but it's not digital on every channel.
Okay, I'll get on that.
Hey, don't leave me in here with the Mushu pork. Dark and cold.
It's time to rethink TV. Sign up now and get over 140 channels for only $29.99 for the first 3 months. Call 1-800-DIRECTV.
You can see the ceremonial tribal scars on the cheeks of 31-year-old Ben Tackie. His mother gave him those marks with a knife when he was a baby boy born into the Ga tribe. Came over to the United States in 1997, moved to Los Angeles, has made his way to the Bronx, and is making his way inside with a series of right hands to start off this 3rd round against Edwin Algarin. Punches in round number 2. Tackie, 21-11 connected man.
There's 3 things right now. There's a warning for a low blow from the referee to Tackie. There's 3 things Tackie should concentrate on, and if he does, I think he can make this night possibly a quicker, earlier exit for himself. One is to cut the ring down as Algarin moves around the ring. The other is to press behind the jab, to keep anything from coming, any pot shotting to come from Algarin. Keep Algarin mentally and physically defensive-minded. And the other is when he gets close, Tackie that is, go downstairs to the body. Algarin's pretty good at moving his head, but if you go to the body, that body's not moving, you'll start to slow down the head.
Well, your number 1 point you made there, Teddy, cutting off the ring, that was applied against Ben Tackie by both Kostya Tszyu and Ricky Hatton. And in both of those instances, he really wasn't in the fight. Lopsided margins in both of those fights.
This is the kind of fight.
He wasn't able to cut off the ring because they gave him so much lateral movement.
And he had so much ability to go with that lateral movement. Algarin doesn't have that kind of caliber ability. This is the kind of fight that if Tackie wants to, I believe he can really take control of this fight. And you start to ask yourself questions. Early on, I was making a point that Algarin throwing don't hit me punches. I can understand it. Huge step up in class, not ready for this psychologically or physically prepared for this. So because of the stage fright, he's coming up short with his punches. He doesn't want to commit. But I'm seeing the same thing with Tackie, being a little hesitant, a little tentative. I'm trying to think of what the explanation would be, and I'm coming up with it. I think it's the change in trainers. Changing to John David Jackson, who overall is going to help him in his career. When you make that transition, you go from a walking guy to a trainer where it's going to try to make you slick. There's a period where you're going to be a little bit off key. And you're going to try to work on those things, and it's going to hold you back in the areas where normally you were more proficient early on.
Solid right hand from Ben Tackie moments ago. Best punch he's landed so far tonight. Tried to trade left hands there that time between Algarin and Tackie. Tackie and Algarin on Friday Night Fights, presented by AutoZone.
Because Advantage Chevrolet will do whatever it takes to make you a deal on a new Chevrolet. Will it take special financing?
Done.
Will it take huge Advantage discounts?
Done.
Will it take factory rebates?
Done.
Will it take top dollar for your trade?
Done.
How about a Malibu for just $158 per month or a Silverado extended cab for only $178 per month? Whatever it takes, at Advantage Chevrolet, we get it done. On the corner of Joliet and LaGrange Roads in the Countryside Auto Mall. Don't miss it.
We interrupt for this news from Gartner Suzuki. So listen up, Toyota, Honda, and Nissan owners. If you haven't driven a Suzuki, you haven't lived. If you haven't bought a new Suzuki from Gartner, you haven't saved enough cash. That's Gartner Suzuki in Tinley Park. They made a special purchase of never titled, never driven new Suzukis, including the 7-passenger XL7 and the Forenza. Gartner has priced them $3,000 to $7,000 off MSRP, plus you get America's #1 warranty. Make the smart move today. Hurry to Gartner Suzuki on 159th and Tinley Park.
Ben Tackie has 5 losses in his career, but look at the names. All title holders. Started off with Goyo Vargas back in '99. Most recently, strung together 3 losses against Zoo, Mitchell, and Ricky Hatton. He does have some quality wins, though, Teddy. Back in 2001, he beat Ray Oliveira, who, of course, back then was something and a great puncher. And Teddy Reed, he was able to take care of and knock out back in 2002. In fact, in that fight against Ray Oliveira, 2,729 total punches were thrown between those two. Number 3 all-time, any weight class in CompuBox history.
Well, 4 of those 5 losses, as you said, to world champions. And world champions that use the ring, as Algarin is trying to do, but not matching the offense with the defense.
Round number 4, they're scheduled for 8. Coming up in our main event tonight, Kendall Holt and Jaime Rangel. 2 guys that always make good fights. Well, Sergio Mora, the contender champion, in studio with Brian Kenny tonight on Friday Night Fights, presented by AutoZone.
Fight plans couldn't be more contrasting, or the fight styles, than these 2 fighters. And they are very simplistic. Tackie needs to cut the ring down, I believe, press behind the jab to keep Algarin from pot-shotting him on the way in and concentrate on that body. Take the legs away from Algarin. Algarin needs to use the ring, but needs to add offense. Needs to punch with the movement.
Tackie taking the first 3 rounds on Teddy's scorecard. You would assume that that's the case here in Pompano Beach, but after what we saw last week on Friday Night Fights in Florida, who knows?
See, that's what Algarin needs to do. He needs to play it on 2 ends. One, when Tackie's laying back, he needs to get off first. Lead with that right jab, that southpaw jab, and create his own offense. When Tackie walks in, goes from a little too far away, leaves himself open, then Algarin needs to counter. Needs to make him pay for his mistakes. And then get on his horse, get out of dodge, and set up in the middle of the ring again to start all over, not get trapped.
Tackie sends in a left hand, finishes up the combination with a straight right.
See Algarin making Tackie miss, but there he makes a
the
pay.
first glimpse
That's what he's got to
of offense from Edwin Algarin as he places a straight left as Tackie came in.
Tackie's creating his own problems. I believe it going half speed these first 4 rounds. He's allowing the younger Algarin to gain some confidence, and that's a dangerous thing to do.
And maybe some of the hesitancy will now be gone from Edwin Algarin as we come to the end of this 4th round.
Pro quarterback Paul Crew was arrested for breaking the law.
Stuff happens.
Yes, it does. I mean, look what happened to your ears.
Today, he may not be the star he used to be, but he's just what they need.
He broke in my nose.
Okay, stop crying.
See the comedy Joel Siegel is calling a summer blockbuster.
How's it look?
Kind of like a young Michael Jackson.
I love little Michael.
The Longest Yard, rated PG-13. It starts today only in theaters.
I play 4 instruments, 5 including my car. My engine used to sound terrible. I put Max Life in and it runs smooth and strong.
At $75,000, time to switch to Max Life.
Take this steak and top it with mushrooms, shrimp, or cheese. There's no hesitating, a hot steak is waiting. So take this steak and top it tonight at Applebee's.
Well, this is the way you draw it up. First, you make a miss of Algarin, and then you make him pay. And that's exactly what he does with the southpaw jab, and then the backhand, the left hand, the power punch for a southpaw.
Halfway through this scheduled 8-rounder, 25-year-old Edwin Algarin. He is 9-2-1, stepping up against Ben Tackie. Edwin wearing the animal print.
Watch your heads, watch your heads.
Tackie in the silver trunks with black trim. And the CompuBox numbers as such in round number 4. Tackie with a 22-9 advantage in power punches. He has a 77-27 advantage overall. But for most of this fight, Edwin Algarin has been on the outside, surviving, showing defense, but not putting any offense forth until the final moments of that 4th round.
Well, looking at
There's
this,
a left hand from Tackie.
Looking at this fight from the outset, as I said earlier, there was nothing on the record to prepare Algarin. He'd never been past 6 rounds. When he's fighting a guy who's been 10 rounds or better 12 times and fought for a world title. He needed some help to be able to last and maybe even get into this fight. He got that help, I believe, in the first 4 rounds by Tackie being less intense than he normally is, Joe.
And Algarin's offensive output at the end of that 4th round earns a mark on Teddy's scorecard. 3 rounds to 1 in favor of Ben Tackie.
The usual unbridled tenacity that you can be sure you're going to see when you go to a Ben Tackie fight hasn't been there. It's been spotty. He's gotten inside, he's gotten back outside. And I really believe, maybe he's overlooking his opponent a little bit. He looks at the record the way we're looking at it. But I believe some of it has to do with the transition he's going through with his new trainer, a good trainer, a real smart fighter, the opposite, the antithesis of what Tackie was as a fighter, slickster. I think that trying to implement some of those changes is making Tackie pull back from his tenacious ways, making him think maybe a little more than he wants to with this kind of opponent right now.
John David Jackson in the corner of Ben Tackie. He's been working on trying to get him box more, jab more, not be as much of a rugged, risk-taking warrior. Edwin Algarin has Johnny Bumpus in his corner, former world champion. Interestingly enough, John David Jackson and Johnny Bumpus, as children, were on the Tacoma Boys Boxing Club team up in the Great Northwest.
Johnny Bumpus, former world champion, former southpaw, so he knows how to speak the right language to his protege, Algarin. He knows how to talk to a southpaw.
Coming to the end of round number 5 here in Pompano Beach, Florida. Home to this week's Friday Night Fights, presented by AutoZone.
This summer, an international phenomenon is coming to America. Dancing with the Stars. 6 celebrities will be paired up with 6 of the world's most renowned dance masters. They'll learn a series of dances in 6 grueling weeks of training.
This is not easy.
I think it's more pressure on her to make me look good.
Each week, they'll compete live. And it's up to you and the judges to decide who will capture the dancing crown. Dancing with the Stars premieres Wednesday, 9, 8 Central, only on ABC.
Country music superstar Phil Vassar talks with Prilosec OTC about frequent heartburn.
I used to get heartburn a lot, even on stage. All that activity would make heartburn kick in, and it made it really hard to sing. And then my mom turned me on to Prilosec OTC, and it really works. When I take it, I don't have to worry about heartburn, no matter how crazy my schedule is.
1 pill a day, 24 hours, 0 heartburn.
Prilosec OTC helps me perform my best.
Thank you so much! Time!
6 rounds scheduled for 8. Edwin Algarin and former world title challenger Ben Tackie.
Time! Box!
Tackie has a 110-54 connect advantage through 5 rounds. 93 of those 110 punches thrown have been power punches.
You know, talking about the change in trainers, Joe, you know, an analogy that I think of when I try to explain about what Tackie's going through with the change of trainers, a smart trainer who's trying to make him more smart in the ring. It's kind of like if you take a guy who's used to eating with his hands, and all of a sudden you give him a fork and a knife. Well, it's going to take him a little longer to devour that meal. In the end, he'll be more efficient, and it'll be neater getting rid of that meal. But at the beginning, it's going to take him a little longer to get it down his throat. It's taking Tackie a little longer to get Algarin down his throat.
John David Jackson trying to transform Ben Tackie. He's been in control throughout against Edwin Algarin. There have been spurts and moments where Algarin has applied offense.
Keep your punches up, you hear me?
Warning from Jorge Alonso, the second so far tonight. You know, reminiscent of what we saw the other night with Teddy Reed and his new trainer, Tom Yankello. You know, Reed really didn't devour much from Yankello. He may have tried early on, but by the end of that fight, it eroded right back to what Teddy Reed does.
Yes,
Keep
It
him
takes
up,
time
man.
to
Keep
be
him
able
up.
to make a change. And sometimes early on, it can hinder you a little bit as you're making that transition.
Well, let's bring in the former world champion, who is now the trainer for Ben Wonder Tackie, John David Jackson. John, how do you feel about what you've been getting out of Ben Tackie tonight?
Well, right now I feel pretty good. He needs a little bit more busier. I would love to see that from him. And now he's starting to reach in a little bit more than I wanted him to. Early on, he was doing what I wanted. This round, he's getting away from some of the things he worked on. He needs to get a little more busier and stay close to this guy.
Sean, as a boxer, this is Teddy here, as a boxer, as a world champion boxer, one thing, when you were boxing guys who walked in, the one thing you probably didn't want them to do was to go to your body. Would you like to see Tackie, boxing a boxer right now, go to Algarin's body a little bit more, take away his best friend, his legs?
That's what we've been working on. I love to see, like you said, you're right, do that more. It would definitely take his legs away and to fight a lot easier for him than it is right now. He was doing that, and he's doing it in spurts, but he's not doing it consistently, and that's what we want to get from him for his fight.
John David Jackson, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
New trainer for Ben Wonder Tackie. Of course, we saw him back on April 23rd in Caesars Palace with Sugar Shane Mosley in the corner for Shane against David Estrada. By the way, you can see the replay of that pay-per-view and the efforts of John David and Sugar Shane next Saturday, June 4th. We will be replaying our tremendous pay-per-view on ESPN2 next Saturday, June 4th, so you won't want to miss that. Coming to the end of round number 6 between Algarin and Tackie on Friday Night Fights, presented by AutoZone.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
If your car's got a dirty air filter, it's robbing your horsepower and killing your gas mileage. Get to AutoZone and replace your air filter today. Get in the zone.
AutoZone.
Hey, let's check on the crowds at the Ace Hardware sale. Neil.
Yeah, Neil said he'd be right back. He's buying stuff.
The Ace Memorial Day sale. Great deals like $10 off 2 gallons of Ace Royal paint and free roller covers after rebate. Sale starts Friday at Ace.
The road stretches out ahead, and you can follow it anywhere. This is freedom. Get the feeling now at your Honda dealer with freedom of choice financing. Choose interest rates as low as 6.9%, or choose monthly payments starting at $39, or even choose no payments for 6 months. Plus, get up to $200 in bonus bucks. For details, go online. Then go to your Honda dealer fast, because after May 31st, these choices are gone.
Friday Night Fights presented by AutoZone, coming to you from the brand new Club Cinema, one of the entertainment centers that popped up here on Pompano Beach. Nice setting for Friday Night Fights. I'm Joe Tessitore alongside Teddy Atlas. Contender champ Sergio Mora alongside Brian Kenny in studio tonight. You're watching 8 rounds of junior welterweight action. Edwin Algarin wearing the animal print silver and black against former world-class rank contender Ben Tackie. You see the total punches. Tackie with a 140-72 edge. Let's bring in the contender champ, Sergio Mora. Sergio, Joe, and Teddy with you. Sergio, what do you make of this fight you're seeing?
Well, it's pretty close. I see Ben Tackie winning just because he's not losing. He looks like the veteran in there, although Algarin, like right now, is landing decent shots. But I see Ben Tackie winning a decision so far.
A couple left hands came in from Algarin, but as Sergio said, Tackie has been in control.
Sergio, it's Teddy here. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you so much, Teddy.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very pleased for you. Have you seen, imagine you've seen Tackie before.
Definitely. I've seen him against Costa. I've seen him all his championship fights. He came up short.
Are you surprised to see him almost doing what Algarin does, box more than just walk forward? Are you a little surprised to see Tackie fighting that kind of fight, not walking in and going right to the body?
Well, I kind of am, but he's getting older, so I'm not sure. But he's a veteran. I'm pretty sure he knows what he's doing.
You think he picked the right night to do it? I got a funny feeling. Yeah, I don't think he did. I have a funny feeling if he fought like the old Ben Tackie early on, he would not have allowed Algarin to get into this fight. He might be in the locker room already. Not to say it's not going to serve him in the long run to learn how to box. It will.
I agree with you. I agree with you, definitely. But he's the veteran. I see. Well, you know what? There it is. Algarin's landing with some clean shots.
Sergio, thank you very much for being with us. You're going to be shocked to know that this fight doesn't end after 7 rounds. We actually have an 8th. Been fighting those odd number
Joe,
fights
that's a low blow
on the
right
contender.
there. Keep him up, Joe.
Sergio Mora, the contender champ. So great to have him with us tonight, celebrating his big win and $1 million. His new nickname is going to be Money is Great, his opening quote here on Friday Night Fights. That was a classic.
You know, I really believe that the old Ben Tackie might have stopped Algarin in this fight early, not let Algarin get into this fight. When Algarin looked like he was walking on eggshells early on, when he was so unsure of himself, before he's like he is now. Now he's gaining confidence. But early on, the old Tackie, I think he might have gotten to him. Not to say that this Tackie is not going to be served well for his future. He will, but for tonight, it didn't serve him as well.
I know you like guys, though, that listen to their trainers, and that's what we're getting tonight with this new Ben Tackie.
And that will serve him.
Improve your golf game with the same tools the pros use from Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, and more. At Ultimate Golf, the premier golf shop in the southwest suburbs, you'll find unbelievable deals on pre-driven woods and complete iron sets, and ladies and junior clubs at the lowest prices around. We'll look at your swing to determine the clubs that fit you best, or bring in your old set for grip replacement or club repair. That's Ultimate Golf, a half-mile north of I-55 on Route 83 in the Willowbrook Shopping Center next to Willowbrook Ford.
From coast to coast, cops are cracking down on safety belt violations. It doesn't matter who you are or where you live. They'll be on the lookout. Cops write tickets to save lives. If you don't buckle up, expect a ticket. Click it or ticket.
Take a look at the action from the last round. You can see here with Algarin getting a little confident, getting a little closer, letting his hands go more. Still a little too polite with the punches. Not a lot of bad intentions there, but a lot better than he was early on the first 3-4 rounds in this fight.
Eighth and final round. Ben Tackie coming forward behind a right hand. Start off this 8th round. Snaps back Algarin's head. You see the punches in round number 7, the 89 thrown and the 27 landed. Those are high total marks for Edwin Algarin. Teddy's scorecard 68-65. Ben Tackie taking the first 3 rounds and the 5th and 6th round.
You always hear some of the criteria for scoring. You say effective aggression. It's so clear right here what the difference in aggression and effective aggression is. You watch this fight. When Tackie presses behind his jab, he's effectively aggressive. When he just stands like he is now, walking in, he is not effective, and he gets counted by Algarin as he picks him up coming forward.
I think you boil this down to Algarin just needed to be more aggressive at all. Wasn't aggressive at all in those first 3 rounds, but the moments that you've been pleased with him were moments where he was.
The moments I'm pleased with Algarin were given to him by Tackie, leaving him alone and allowing him to grow, to start to believe in himself as this fight, like a book with chapters, got more and more deeper.
Fires off a counter there.
You started to see the character in the chapters. You started to find out who the person was in the book as this fight went on. And now you're starting to see that person, Algarin, gain confidence and get more aggressive. Right here, winning this last round. And again, I believe, give him credit and give his corner credit. But I believe it's got a lot to do with his opponent, Tackie, who's trying to be a boxer so he can prolong his career and help him in the long run. It's allowing Algarin to get confidence and to have moments where he's effective.
Ben Tackie, 31 years old, a real warrior type for most of his career. This is the 31st fight of his career, and you know the fights he's been in. Ray Oliveira, Teddy Reed, Costa Tszyu, Sharmba Mitchell, Ricky Hatton. That's a thick list and plenty of action. You know, for a risk-reward fighter like Ben Tackie for most of his career, now transitioning and boxing more under the tutelage of John David Jackson.
Well, just look at him the last 30, 40 seconds of this round. Tackie looks like the boxer. He's on the outside. He's using his jab. He's not looking to come forward. He's falling in love with boxing. I don't blame him. After all the punches he's caught throughout his career, why wouldn't he fall in love with something that'll make him get hit less? I just don't know if tonight was the right time to bring it out. But we will find out in a minute whether or not he still gets that W in this column. I believe he will.
Edwin Algarin, he is celebrating after 8 rounds with Ben Tackie, who you would think is ahead on the scorecards, but we'll find out when we come back.
a new level of performance and boost your shave with new Mach 3 Comfort Gel. Designed to partner with all Mach 3 razors to make Gillette's best shave even better. New Mach 3 Comfort Gel, the best a man can get.
Hey. Hey, Tim. So, how was Father's Day? Pam get you anything?
Yeah, actually, she got me this camera phone. It was 2 for 1, so she got one, too. What'd you get?
Don't be a jerk. What are you looking at?
This year, it's good to be dad. Buy one Samsung A670 camera phone from Verizon Wireless for $49.99 and get a second one free. Then start calling on the nation's most reliable wireless network.
Johnson said you wanted to see me?
Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you.
Any place else you'd rather be?
No.
2 thumbs way up for Cinderella Man. This Sunday, be the first to see a special sneak preview of the must-see movie of the summer. Cinderella Man, rated PG-13. Sneak preview this Sunday.
Later on SportsCenter, will Larry Brown's health concerns hurt Detroit's chances of repeating? Did Danica Patrick really win at Indy? And who holds the key to Bill Parcells' future in Big D? It's SportsCenter, 11 Eastern, ESPN.
The Spurs take home a 2-0 series lead.
Ginobili with the move. It's good.
Now the Suns are fighting for their playoff lives. Suns Spurs, Game 3. Coverage begins at 8:30 Saturday on ESPN.
Come on. We got it. Go, Bernie, go.
Don't look at it. A wash and wax used to be a workout, but with the new Armor All Gel system, you can wash without a bucket and wax while you dry every time. The Armor All Gel system, the simple way to get a wax with every wash.
It's that time of the year. Double dips of boxing on ESPN2, and the IBF title is going to be defended by this man, Israel Vasquez. Puts his IBF 122-pound belt up against Armando Guerrero on Tuesday night fights at 8 o'clock. World Championship on the line. Friday night fights will be off next week, but in 2 weeks we return with Shannon Briggs at the Hall of Fame show. Friday night fights presented by AutoZone. Briggs versus Abraham O'Kine. ESPN Boxing, your boxing authority. Of course, many boxing luminaries and legends will be joining us on June 10th. You won't want to miss that. 2 weeks from tonight. The total punches between Algarin and Ben Tackie. Ben Tackie had a 380 to 217 power advantage. Teddy Atlas's scorecard. 77-75 Ben Tackie. Let's send it up to the ring to Mark Lichtenfeld.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unanimous decision. Judge Mike Ross and Michael Pernick both scored the bout 77-75. Mark Streisand saw it 79-73 for your winner by unanimous decision, Ben Tackie.
So the former title challenger working his way back, trying to get back into that position, tried to change his approach with a new trainer, and he comes up with the decision win against Edwin Algarin. Teddy, real quick, where's Ben Tackie headed?
Well, he's the kind of guy, he's been in there with the best, so he can be put in. You don't have to waste no time with him. Give him 1 or 2 more fights and put him in with the biggest fight you can.
Let's send it back to Brian Kenny with the contender champ, Sergio Mora, our in-studio guest tonight. Gentlemen,